All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to explore a really radical new idea, a completely different kind of architecture for global collaboration. It's basically a proposal for a planetary-scale operating system, one that's designed to help us tackle our most tangled, interconnected global problems. I mean, you can feel it, can't you? It's not just one thing going wrong. It's this perfect storm of challenges hitting us all at once, what the source material calls a polycrisis. You've got climate change, social division, economic instability, but they aren't separate issues. They're all tangled up, a system where each crisis actually feeds and amplifies the others. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the matter. The argument is that the real culprit isn't the individual crisis, it's a much deeper condition: fragmentation. Our institutions, our economies, even our way of thinking, they all treat the world like it's made of separate little pieces. But reality? It's a deeply interdependent web. And that fundamental mismatch, well, it's become seriously dangerous. So that brings us to the central question of this whole explainer. If the very logic of our global operating system is the problem, just tweaking things around the edges isn't going to cut it, right? You need a completely different approach.
Okay, so before we get to the solution, let's just get a really clear picture of this tangled knot we're trying to undo.
This visual really says it all. Most of our institutions were built for a much simpler time. They're stuck treating the symptoms in their own little silos. They throw money at climate change over here and try to fix social division over there, but they completely miss the underlying disease, which is fragmentation. And by doing that, they often just end up pulling that knot even tighter. All right, so if fragmentation is the disease, what's the medicine? Let's get into the proposed solution, which isn't just another program. It's framed as a whole new kind of infrastructure. And this is the key thing to get. Phoenix isn't just another app you download. It's imagined as a new kind of public utility, kind of like the internet itself. It's a digital environment that's governed, that's built to understand relationships, and that is fundamentally regenerative. The whole point is to help us see how connected we really are and act more wisely because of it. And its purpose is incredibly specific. It's meant to be a human resilience infrastructure. So what does that actually mean? It means strengthening our ability as a society to handle all this complexity and chaos. It's about protecting human agency in an age of incredibly powerful AI and figuring out how to steer these new technologies so they serve people and the planet. So you're probably wondering, okay, this sounds interesting, but how does it actually work? Well, let's pop the hood and take a look at the core intelligence that powers this whole thing. At the very heart of this is a totally different kind of AI. They call it relationship-aware AI, or RAAI. Now, this is a huge shift. Most AI today just sees us as data points to be optimized, for clicks or sales. RAAI is designed to do the opposite. It's built to see the context, the history, the whole living web of relationships that connects everything together. So how in the world does it understand relationships? It uses a concept called ethical digital twinning. Now, don't let the jargon throw you. We're not talking about making a copy of a jet engine here. We're talking about creating living, dynamic models of how things relate to each other, how a team works together, how a community interacts, even how a forest ecosystem depends on its watershed. It's this deep modeling that gives the AI a really rich, evolving picture of what's going on in the real world. Okay, so you have this really smart, relationship-aware AI. What does it do with that knowledge? Well, that's where the Synergy engine comes in. You can think of this as the real engine room of the Phoenix platform. It takes all that deep understanding of how things are connected and puts it to work, weaving together all these scattered separate efforts into powerful, coordinated action. So here's the basic playbook for how it operates. First, it maps out these incredibly complex systems to find the best places to intervene, the real leverage points. Then, once it's found those spots, it acts like a super smart matchmaker, connecting the right people, the right resources, and the right projects. Third, it creates these really tight feedback loops so that everyone involved can learn and adapt super quickly. And finally, when you put all that together, it enables huge groups of people to act with a kind of coordinated collective swarm intelligence. I know what you might be thinking. This sounds huge, maybe even impossible. So how on earth would you even begin to build something like this? Well, the strategy is actually way more down to earth than you might think. See, the first and most important rule is you don't try to build this thing from the top down. You don't force a massive centralized system onto the world. That never works. Instead, the approach is completely different. You grow it organically from the ground up by nurturing what's already working.
The whole strategy revolves around creating what they call a global network of islands of coherence. And the idea is actually pretty simple, but powerful. You go out and find the places where this more collaborative, regenerative way of doing things is already happening. You know, those amazing communities or organizations that are already figuring it out. Then you support them with the Phoenix tools and infrastructure to supercharge what they're doing. And, this is the crucial part, you connect these islands to each other so they can form a shared learning network and start to weave a whole new global fabric.
Okay, let's pull the camera back for a second and look at the ultimate vision here. Because this isn't just about better project management. We're talking about enabling a fundamental paradigm shift in how our civilization operates. And this slide just lays it out in the starkest possible terms. On one side, you have the old logic that runs pretty much everything right now. Extraction, competition, short-term profit. It's designed to be short-sighted. On the other side, you have the new logic this system is trying to enable, one based on regeneration, collaboration, and the long-term well-being of the whole system.
And I think this quote just absolutely nails it. We've all been programmed, almost subconsciously, for what it calls reflexive extraction. It's just the default setting. The real work, the great challenge ahead of us is to unlearn that habit, and instead learn how to design systems that are symbiotic, systems where humanity can finally act as a collaborative partner within the web of life, not as its master. Which leaves us with one final, really powerful question to think about. I mean, what would our world actually look like if our deepest values, things like stewardship and care and cooperation, were actually coded directly into the operating system of our civilization? What if our economy didn't just tolerate those values, but actively, tangibly rewarded them? That's definitely something we're thinking about.